cool. I'm setting up the camera standing up today so I can stand, I can project my voice a lot easier. Sitting down recording is not the best thing in the world. So let's give this a go. Let's see if this works in 3, 2, 1. When I was in year 11, going into year 12, I was very insecure about my academic level. And the main reason for this was because in year 11, I did 1, 3, 4 subject, and in year 12, I knew I had to do 5. And when I did my year 11 subject, and I did the 3, 4 subject in year 11, that was VCE 3, 4 Methods, I spent a lot of time doing work for that subject. I did heaps of practice exams because I had the time to do it. I did heaps of exams because I had the time to do it. And I could study ahead of the class because I had the flexibility to do it, because my other year 11 subjects didn't matter as much. If you don't know already, your year 11 subjects and your just unit 1, 2s in general, they don't count towards your study score. The only time where assessments count towards your study score are your 3, 4 SACs. So we're talking about VCE methods. It'll be the 3, 4 method SACs, and then you also have your 2 exams at the end of the year. Everything in unit 1, 2, in terms of the assessments, don't actually count towards your study score. So when I was going through year 11, I was just thinking, man, I'm just going to spend all my time working on 3, 4 methods because all the other subjects didn't count towards my study scores and towards my ATAR. And what this meant was, of course, I can maximize the amount of time that I spend on VCE methods, and I ended up securing a grade that I was happy with and I was grateful for. But at the same time, I was going into year 12 scared because I wasn't sure if I could replicate that. If I did the same amount of work that I did for VCE methods in year 11, for all my other subjects in year 12, there wouldn't be enough time in the day to actually do that. So I went into year 12 thinking, how do I actually do that again? How can I achieve the same results and the same grades, but without putting in the same amount of work? Because that's essentially what I needed to achieve in order to secure my dream ATAR and secure my dream study scores. So what I had to do was reflect and essentially just think about what I could actually do to make my study more efficiently. And that's probably what you're thinking about right now. You're going towards the end of year 11, you're about to go into year 12, you're about to go into the summer break, which is going to be crucial, and that's what this video is about. But we need to start thinking about how to study more efficiently in order to maximize your study scores and maximize the grades that you're getting for your SACs for these 5, 3, 4 subjects in year 12. Awesome. So there's 2 different things that I did in VCE 3, 4 methods that I did in year 11 that were really productive for getting a good grade, I feel. Now, these 2 things, I'll go through one at a time. These 2 things are things that I recommend that people do in year 12, but the problem is that time doesn't permit as much. So what I'm going to do is talk about these solutions that I've talked about in previous videos anyway, but what we're going to do is we're going to shrink the time frame at which you apply these skills. So the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about getting ahead of the class. And I've talked about this in numerous videos. I always say the same thing. If people stay 2 to 3 weeks ahead of the class schedule, they have more times leading into exams, they have more time leading into SACs, and they just have a more amount of time to do SAC specific and exam specific preparation. So that's why I recommend everyone get 2 to 3 weeks ahead of the class. And it doesn't only mean that you have that extra time, it also means that you learn how to self-study and you learn things more than once. So when you self-study, you read the textbook independently, you do the exercises independently, you watch some free videos that we have on our YouTube independently, and then you pay attention in class. So instead of just paying attention in class once, you've learned things 4 times at least. If you go through the textbook independently and you do all those other things, I'm talking too fast, and you do all those other things that I said previously. I'm going to have a drink. Whew. If you do all those things that I mentioned and you study ahead of time and you read the textbook independently and you do the exercises independently and you watch the videos that I have on the YouTube, then you're going to be able to learn things in a productive way, but it's also just going to mean that you don't just learn it once, you learn it 4 times at the least. So it's kind of a twofold benefit to studying ahead of time. But then what we're focusing on today is how to prepare yourself now for success in the future. So how do you prepare yourself over the summer holidays in order to make your year 12 life as easy as possible? It's not going to be easy, but we're trying to make it as easy as possible. Now, the first thing that I'm going to say is over the summer holidays, you need to be getting ahead, and you can be getting ahead more than this 2 to 3 week period. So we're just going to focus on VCE methods, for example, because I'm well versed with the content. That's my specialty. For VCE methods, if you're going into year 12 doing VCE 3-4 methods, you can study well ahead of just the 2 to 3 week buffer that I mentioned. So I recommend doing the 2 to 3 weeks for sure. Get that done. But in terms of what else you can do beyond that, you could probably go a ballpark 5 to 6 weeks ahead of class. And the reason why I'm saying that specifically for VCE methods is because all of the content, 90% of the content is recycled, especially in the first part of the year. So in the first term, the topics are functions and relations, linear functions, quadratics, polynomials, transformations. Now, all of those topics you've done before. The only, I'm just going to spoil it for you, there's only 1 to 2 additional things beyond what you've done in year 11 that are added in year 12. I think one might be composite functions, if I'm not mistaken, that is not in the Unit 1-2 curriculum. And I think that actually might be it, just composite functions and addition of ordinates. So you've got addition of ordinates, you've got composite functions. Everything else though, in the first term is just recycled from year 11. Now, what does this exactly mean? It means that when you self-study this, it shouldn't really be learning it from scratch. It should be more so a refresher. So if you go into the preparation of year 12 thinking that things are a bit more of a refresher, then it will make things seem a lot easier, and it'll just mean that you're connecting the dots rather than learning something from scratch. So you can imagine you can do a lot more in that time. If you feel like your year 11 skill is not up to scratch, then you have the whole summer to prepare, right? So you can spend a lot of time and just delve into what you know, what you don't know, and of course fix what you don't know and get ahead before year 12 actually starts in January. So that's the first tip sorted. If you want more revision time leading into SACs and exams and you want to stay ahead of the rest of the class, then use the time over the summer and use the flexibility that you have over summer to get ahead for maybe about 5 to 6 weeks. And then during the semester and during the year, you try and keep around 2 to 3 weeks. The reason why I say start off at 5 to 6 weeks, just to clarify, is because you want to give yourself a big head start. So then when you do start to slow down leading into SACs for various subjects and you spend more time just focusing on one SAC and all the other subjects fall behind, that 5 to 6 weeks will naturally become 2 to 3 weeks ahead. So that's why I say to get 5 to 6 weeks ahead over the summer. And again, it's the best time to do it over the summer break, and the 2-week breaks during the year are okay, I guess, but the summer break is better than just a 2-week break. So that's why I'm saying over summer, it's the most crucial time to just set up the foundation for the whole year during year 12. Now, this second tip leads into the first tip, but anyone who's going to be successful with a VCE subject, they're doing as much SAC revision and as much exam revision as possible. Now, the reason why the first tip helps out with this one is because when you buy yourself that 2 to 3 week buffer, it gives you 2 to 3 weeks ahead of everyone else to do more SAC preparation and do even more exam preparation at the end of the year. So that gives you more time, but how do you actually use that time efficiently? It'll just be a matter of doing as many SAC style questions and exam style questions as possible and as much practice as you can get your hands on. Now, it's hard to get your hands on heaps of resources. Your school might give you some. You might be able to get some from the VCE Methods website where they have a bunch of old exams. We have resources as well that I give out for free. If you want some, link is in the bio to our online course, our free online course that has heaps of free resources that I post there daily. Bit of a plug there. But aside from all these places where you can get some resources here, some resources there, you probably aren't going to get a heap of resources. We have resources that, I'll be honest, we have as our paid service as well, but not everyone has the need and the want to actually pay for something. So let's just say you get all the free resources available and you collate them all together. Then there's probably enough to do well on a SAC and exam if you use it wisely. But how do you actually use the resources wisely? So I don't really care about how many SACs you have and how many SAC style questions you have and how many exam style questions you have and how many exams that you've done. It's a matter of, did you do them properly? So let's just go through and break down how to actually do these properly. So as I said, if you give yourself 2 to 3 weeks leading into SACs and exams to do SAC specific preparation, how do you actually use that time productively? Now, the first thing is that when students go through SACs, this would be most students, right? They take a SAC or they take an exam and they just attempt it and then they mark it off and then they set and forget it. Okay, a lot of people might see that and hear that and I think there's nothing actually wrong with that. But the problem is that you've attempted it, which is one part of the learning process, but you haven't actually reviewed it and then fixed it. See, unless you're getting 100% on all these exams, then you have to actually go through a review process where you reflect on what you did well, and what you did wrong, and how do you fix it for next time. So instead of just doing a full exam or let's just take a question. Let's just take an extended question. You do an extended question, you mark it off, and then where do you go from there? Now, a lot of students, they haven't really thought that far, which is fine. You're in year 11, you're going into year 12, but it's important to learn this before you get into SAC preparation and before you get into exam preparation. And you need to know now because you need to have these reviewing skills at the start. So then when you get to SACs and when you get to exams, it's just second nature to you and you could just do it, you could just do it like it's muscle memory. So how does the review process actually work when you get a question wrong? So the first thing you're going to do is attempt the question and then mark it off. See what you get right, see what you get wrong. And then if you have a worked solution with you, that's a huge benefit because it means that you don't have to go through and sift out and try and make a solution for yourself just based on the final answer. So work solutions are great, but a lot of people would think of work solutions as, I don't need to do my own solution anymore. But the learning process doesn't necessarily just come from the marking. That's a very small amount. A lot of the learning and a lot of the fixing comes from actually going through the question again. And this seems tedious, I know, but just hear me out. If you get a SAC question wrong, you need to reattempt that part of the question that you got wrong in completion until you're working out is perfect. So what I recommend you do is look at the work solution, see how it's done, study it, understand it, and once you've understood it in a general sense, then apply it to that specific question again without looking at it. So that's the key thing. You need to attempt it as if you're doing it for the first time again. Now, of course, you might remember the process, but that's fine because remembering the process is good, right? You want to remember the process. So a lot of people would think, what's the point of doing the SAC again? Or what's the point of doing that SAC question again if I already remember it? Well, that's a good thing. So when you do it again, you're going to remember it even more strongly, I guess, is the word. You're going to remember it better. And then when you apply it to the next question, you're going to be a master of that process and you're never going to forget it again. So actually going through the question twice, getting it wrong the first time, reviewing it in the middle, and then doing it in completion again until it's 100% right is the best way to do it. And it's very time consuming, but it means that you have to do less revision. Because you've probably noticed this as well. If you've done SAC revision or if you've done exam revision, then you've made the same mistake multiple times. And it's a problem that people face because they haven't actually reflected on how to actually do the question properly. They just have a quick glance of them. I'm honest, I'm guilty of this, I'll be honest. And this is why I'm so precise with what people do, because I used to be like this as well. And I used to waste practice SACs, and I used to waste practice exams because I didn't reflect on them properly. And I was making the same mistakes over and over. But once I actually started reviewing the SACs and exams and going through the questions again from scratch, the ones that I got wrong, then it made sure that I never made the same mistake again. And if you do more and more practice, there's only so many mistakes you can make. Eventually, you're genuinely going to improve a lot. And there's not going to be that many questions that you can't answer, or there's not going to be that many questions that you're not going to be confident with. So let's give a quick summary to this video. How to maximize your summer in order to improve and build the foundation for year 12. The first thing you need to do is get well ahead of your subjects, and this applies to all of the subjects. So get about 5 to 6 weeks ahead of the class, learn how to learn independently. If you need free resources for VCE Methods, go in the link in bio. If you need free resources for other subjects, I can't help you, sorry. But VCE Methods, I can help you with that. The learning process is the same though. Read the textbook independently, attempt the exercises independently, and work backwards just to figure out how to actually do it. It's going to be, self-learning is great. You can learn anything independently if you actually try to connect the dots yourself. So it's not impossible. Everything you need to know is in the textbook. Read it properly, take notes properly. Again, VCE Methods resources, if you need them, it's in the bio. Now, get 5 to 6 weeks ahead and stay ahead for the rest of the year. Now, when it comes to getting closer to SACs and exams, that you can start with that preparation now just by reviewing and reflecting on your questions properly. So whatever your questions you get wrong, redo them from scratch, write the general process, do the question again without looking at the solution, and you're going to be a master of everything for your year 12 subjects.